This season on the art and science of complex sales, we're thrilled to present Tales from the Front Lines, a season developed for the leaders shaping the future of complex sales. We're bringing you straight into the action with the C-suite, VPs of sales, sales development experts, and top-performing sales execs who are redefining success in the B2B world. These are the trailblazers that are tackling tough sales cycles, coaching sales champions, and aligning teams to deliver exceptional results. So join us as we unpack the hard lessons, the breakthrough moments, and the invaluable insights from the best in the business. It's more than a podcast, it's a guide to growing revenue with confidence. So let's get started. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we are honored to be joined by Brynne Tillman, the CEO of Social Sales Link and a maestro in the art of LinkedIn and social selling. Brynne's journey has taken her from transforming call centers into solution-driven teams to falling in love with the relationship-driven networking that has shaped her into the expert she is today. Her passion? It's revolutionizing sales by harnessing the power of LinkedIn. She's turning cold outreach into warm introductions that drive value for everyone. And with a forward-looking focus on AI, Brynne is on a mission to show us how technology and authentic connections can drive success in ways we've never imagined. Get ready for a great conversation with Brynne Tillman. Brynne Tillman, welcome to the program. How are you?
Oh, good, Paul. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to have you on here. I've been talking with Pamela, who introduced us quite a lot about this, and I guess my excitement comes a lot from the fact how excited she was to have you on.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm looking forward to sharing some of my little tips and tricks.
Well, that's cool. And so let's back up a little bit. And this season, we're doing a whole lot about what's going on the front lines of sales. And one of the things that you specialize in is exactly what's going on the front lines of sales. So I want to dive into that. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your background and what you're focused on these days?
Oh, thank you. I am a producer who turned sales trainer, who turned social selling trainer, who has now pivoted to social selling and AI for sales and marketing. Essentially, how are we leveraging LinkedIn and AI to sell more effectively? And that comes with really kind of a trifecta of things. So the first one is the tool. So we have AskSSL.ai, which is a tool that helps sales and revenue driven professionals customize their AI so it sounds like them all the time. So it's in their voice and in the brand voice. The second thing is training, lots of on-demand, just-in-time training. And then we have a coaching membership, and it's kind of all one big package. But the coaching is twice a week where people come in, we customize the prompts and their LinkedIn lead lists and their outreach campaigns and sorts. So essentially, we've really kind of progressed through the years following the new trends in sales, and now have really landed in probably the most interesting bit I've ever been involved with.
Well, let's dive into that a bit. When most people come to you, what are the core questions? What's the state of the average salesperson in terms of AI and LinkedIn and leveraging that for sales?
Yeah. So let's talk about the state, regardless of the solution, which is I used to have the phone ringing inbound all the time. That has stopped. The momentum that I had for years has slowed down. The prospecting that I need to do has changed. The last time I prospected was 8 or 10 years ago, when I could call someone and they'd pick up the phone. Or, I could say to a client, hey, could you make some introductions? And they did. And it's shifted now to a very different culture. No one picks up the phone unless they know your name and it's coming up. Even my children don't pick up the phone, even though it says mom. They'll text back and say, what's up? Right? Like, it's just changed. So the challenge is very good industry specific experts who used to find it pretty easy to sell are now challenged in this new world where just starting a trust-based conversation with a prospect is a huge challenge. And most of them will say, Paul, most of them will say to me, if I could just get on the call, I'm fine. It's getting that first call that is just so difficult today. And so that's the challenge. And the piece of the pie that we help in solving that really comes down to LinkedIn for social selling and AI for appropriate, authentic content and messaging that is positioned to convert a lurker or someone into an engager, into really a trust-based conversation.
So why focus on those two specific? So out of all of the things that you could have focused on across the board to try and get the door open, or why did you focus there?
So I love that question. Let's start with LinkedIn because AI is only in the last 2 years. So LinkedIn has been 15 years that I've been teaching this. And I was in sales and I was in a sales training role. And as much as I love sales, what I didn't love was the cold calling. I did it because it got me in front of clients that I completely enjoyed helping. But the cold calling just was sort of a means to an end. It was not all that enjoyable, even though I did a pretty good job of it back in the day. And I recall in 1992, very long time ago, sitting across from a client, staring at his overflowing Rolodex. Now, I don't know if you ever had a Rolodex, if there are even people listening that don't even know what a Rolodex is, but if you don't, go ask your parents. Staring at this, wishing I could get my hands on this, because if I could identify who he knew that I wanted to meet, I could ask for very strategic introductions and I wouldn't have to cold call anymore.
Wait a second. Isn't a Rolodex a watch?
It's a.
I'm kidding.
You know, my spell check occasionally will flip that. So it's funny that you said that.
I am kidding. For everybody that's out there that is not of the age to know that, it's the big old flippy book that you had all sorts of people's contacts in there. You could get to them really quickly and easily. It was awesome. I loved those. Anyway.
But now it's digital, right? And so now with LinkedIn, that's what we have. We have the ability to search and filter our connections to identify who they know that we want to meet and leverage our already existing relationships to gain access to stakeholders at a very high level of credibility. So when I saw this about 15 years ago, I said, oh my gosh, like this is absolutely everything I ever prayed for. And so I started to include that in my sales training and then realized, you know, I'm okay at sales training, but I'm really good at this LinkedIn thing. So I niched in. I launched Social Sales Link, my current company, 11 years ago. Broke off from my partner in the traditional sales training company, who is doing exceptionally well. And I'm thrilled she's got that going because I love what I'm doing, and really just really focused on how are we leveraging LinkedIn to start these trust-based conversations without being salesy. How are we doing this in a way where people don't feel like they're being spammed, where people don't feel like, this is a one way, all I want to do is sell you, which is still the biggest problem on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. So when we focus on this from an authentic networking and engaging platform where we can start conversations around content that matters to our prospects versus the content we want them to know about us, we can really develop a rapport that it very much mirrors the in-person networking and prospecting, right? So how are we doing that on LinkedIn? And it really comes down to 3 mindset.
Okay.
shifts. The first one is we have to detach from what the prospect is worth to us and attach to what we are worth to the prospect. So we are showing up as a trusted resource, not as a salesperson.
I love that. Can you say that line again, just so everybody gets
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah, we have to detach from what the prospect is worth to us and attach to what we are worth to the prospect.
So what are some, I know there's two other things we're going to dive into, but what are some recommendations you have in that area specifically? Because that is a really big deal.
Yeah, you can't go at this going, ooh, that one's worth 3,000 and that one's worth 15,000. And we do that as salespeople. We're like, oh my gosh, it's a 15-person company. This is what an average, you have to detach from that. You have to look at this as if you were at a networking meeting and all of these people may be leads, they may be networking partners, they may meet your ICP, right? They may meet your ideal customer profile, but that does not mean that they are interested in your stuff. So we have to build rapport and bring value, detaching from the sale. We cannot look at them as a lead. We've got to look at them as someone that I'd like to get to know a little bit better, bring value to, and earn the right to get the conversation.
Wonderful.
So that's number one. Number two, really, I guess piggybacks off of that, which is you need to treat the person on the other side of the message the same way you would if they were on the other side of the table, right? So that's how, and maybe I need to flip which one comes first, right? But ultimately, we have to start looking at these profiles as human beings, not as a lead list that we got from Zoom Info, right? Like these are people. Mm-hmm. And the third one is the hardest thing for sales to do, which is you have to slow down your outreach to speed up your outcome. We can't pitch too soon. The connect and pitch is a bait and switch, right? That we are victims of that all the time. Yet salespeople go, well, if I can get out 50 messages today, maybe 2 of them will turn into conversations and 1 of them might close. When we're in that mindset, we lose on LinkedIn. You can't take the cold calling mindset and have it be effective on LinkedIn. It just isn't. Right?
So more isn't on the numbers game, more isn't better.
This is not, I mean, there is a slight numbers game. So I'm not going to say the numbers game, but it's a different game, right? So it's, have I identified the right people in the right companies? And do I understand what challenges they're facing today? May not be directly connected to my solution, but it could lead to my solution. So another one is, don't lead with your solution, lead to it. Number 4.
I like that. Yeah, no, I like that. I'm going to go back to number 2 because one of the things I wanted to ask you about that shift in mindset is, I think, is really, really, really important. And I think even more so now with the advent of the second part of your practice with AI, but focusing on a person, like being able to see this collection of data in front of you on a LinkedIn page or in your CRM as a person. How do you help people kind of engage that mindset? Because I naturally, a lot of the times we don't do it. We think of it as a lead. We think of it as as a path to a paycheck. How do you really think of them as that individual and help change that mindset?
Well, a lot of it starts with you are at a conference and you are walking around the floor and you're having conversations with people. What does that sound like? Do you jump right into discovery? No. You'll talk about, so for example, conference, let's use a real example. Mm-hmm. There's a great piece of content that's out there that an influencer in your industry has put out, and there are 72 comments and engagements. Here's the conference. That influencer is the keynote. All these people showed up to listen to that keynote. Out of the 72 engagements, 9 of them are people that you'd love to have a conversation with. Now you're in a conference with them, right? You're sitting next to them. What do you talk about? Well, typically you'll talk about the keynote first, right? That would be a natural progression in a conversation. Have you ever seen him talk before? Have you heard this podcast? Oh, well, then how do I do that online? Well, I typically go to listennotes.com and find a podcast by the person, whether they're a guest or they're a host. You just go to listennotes.com, you type in their name, and everything they've ever done comes up, right? And I think podcasts, as we're doing one right now, is some of the most valuable content because you really get a deep dive into the way that someone thinks. So now you've got someone who's a fan that's sitting in the audience, and you found this great podcast that they were on, and I'm like, hey, Paul, I see we're both big fans of Jeb Blunt. Is this your first time hearing him? No, I follow all his stuff. So, I don't know if you had a chance to hear his podcast that he was on the other week on the difference between fast prospecting and slow prospecting, but it's really valuable. Let me know if you're interested. I'm happy to send you a link. So now we've had this conversation. We started this rapport building around someone we had in common, right? Now, that is one of many, many different ways to start engagement. There are other ways if you're like, well, most of my people aren't engaging on content or they're not sharing content. Well, we could look at a poll, right? Because we might ask them questions if we were in person. So I may put out a poll that says, in this case, we'll stick with sales as the example. What is your biggest challenge in selling? Is it starting your conversations with prospects? Is it getting multi-threading and getting all the people on one call? Do you have a challenge in getting the competitive edge or other sharing comments? So now I reach out to folks, and I'm not leading with my solution, I'm leading to my solution by asking questions that they might be interested in seeing how other people are voting on that, what's going on in their world. And now I can it's almost discovery-ish, but it's not pitchy. So those are the kinds of things that we can do that lead to our solution, not with it, that start a natural conversation with someone around something they'd be happy to talk about in person.
I love that analogy you just made there, relative to going to a conference and you're sitting next to somebody, and what do you bring up? It's a very natural way to think about it. So kudos, wonderful analogy. Let's now tie that into the second half, right? So you had some keys to LinkedIn and keys to reaching out. Like, what is going on in this world of AI and sales right now that one connects you to that mission of LinkedIn and building networks and leading with your solution and seeing people as human? Like, how do you leverage an artificial tool for that?
Yeah. So that was my challenge, right? Because here I am literally preaching authenticity and communication and personalization and slow it down. And now we've got this tool that speeds everything up. Mm-hmm. But it was broken, still generally broken in the fact that it would go out, it would research things, it was slightly delusional, it would quote my competitors, but not tell me that it did. So if I were using this content, I'd actually be plagiarizing. Like, there were a lot of challenges in the initial days of AI. And I thought, boy, if I'm going to use this, how do I create the ability for salespeople to use this within guidelines, within frameworks, within their authentic voice, the company's brand voice? So how do we do that? So things like ChatGPT, it had instructions. So I'm like, okay, this is a great start. I add instructions, but then I might be selling to a CRO of a company with 180 sales reps, or I might be selling to a CEO that has 2 sales reps. It's a very different conversation. It's a very different set of questions. Like even the pre-call planning is different. The discovery questions are different. Like everything is different. So how do I teach it instructions when there are so many different variables in each call? Challenge. The next challenge, I have over 300 prompts. How do I organize those? How do I decide how to use those? Where do I pull them from? Next challenge, I have 50 chats a week. How do I organize those and come back to them? So we looked for the tool and it didn't exist. So we built AskSSL.ai, which does that. You can have many different client voices. You can have your own voice. You can combine the two, your voice with a specific client. Maybe you sell to 3 different industries. And so we can now control the conversation. We can control the guardrails. So I have, 70 prohibitions. So one is, do not ever use the word delve, ever.
We can't delve into something together, you and I. I mean, we just normally say that in regular
normal conversation. I never use that word. Right. And there's like foster is another one. Now I used to use the word foster, but now when I see foster, I go, that is definitely ChatGPT.
I'd like to foster a connection. Yes, with you.
But I used to use that word a lot.
No, I don't anymore. No, I know.
You can't, right?
Yeah.
So I use the word leverage all the time. That one I'm struggling to give up because leveraging LinkedIn is the name of my course. So I get, but anyway, the other one, this is a big one in Prohibitions. Guys, if you take nothing else away, no, I'm going to give you 2 things you need to take away from this. The first one is in the Prohibitions, like what not to do. You want to say, do not ever start a paragraph with a prepositional phrase, right? So in today's ever changing, just take it out. So that is really important. I'm now going to give you quickly the 6 steps to writing a good prompt. And our whole platform is based on this. So it's the CRISP plus model. CRISP, C, context. What do you want it to do? R is the role. Who do you want it to be? I is the inspiration. This is where you go all out on everything you want it to sound like and be like, and my dream ebook, all these things, right? Whatever it is, blog post. Scope is S. What is the scope? So maybe it's a marketing plan. I want 30 days. I want 7 activities daily, or I want this to be a 2,000 word blog post, or right. That's the scope. Then it's P is prohibitions, right? What don't we want it to do? Mm-hmm. And then here's the magic. This really is, Paul, this is the magic. Ready?
All right.
This is at the end of every prompt you ever do for the rest of your life. 1 line. Ask me all the questions you need to complete this task, 1 at a time. So now you've told it all this stuff, and instead of just creating, it now will interview you in your voice.
That's fascinating.
It's a game changer.
Wow. I'd never even thought about that. I
did it by accident, and then I went, it's magic. Yeah, it will absolutely change AI for you in ways I can't even describe. But so all of our 300 prompts have that last line.
That's awesome. So that then gives you as a sales rep the ability, those are the questions that you can then interview.
Right. But as a company, you could put the guardrails around in the prohibitions. Yeah. So you are saying we can use your voice, but because we're financial services, here are all the things you can't say. You can't say the word guarantee. You can't use the word promise. You can't no actual client testimonials, right? There are things, guardrails that companies now can put into prompts. And this is what we do. Like, so we give them prompts that are predetermined specifically for their sales reps. So they get asked questions, but even if they answer something that is, if it is in the prohibitions or it's not in the company voice that's built in mostly into the inspiration side of things, it's not in the company voice, they can't override that prohibition, no matter what they say. So it gives companies a little bit more comfort knowing that they can enable their team to leverage AI responsibly.
So let me ask that an add-on question here.
Yeah.
How are people then leveraging AI responsibly? Like, what do they do? Is this something that they're put into auto sequences, or is it just answering questions or engaging? Is it all of the above?
Yeah. So we have lots of campaigns, which would create, we have email drip campaigns. You download an ebook. What do I want it to say? We have prospect by poll. What are all the steps in creating the poll, getting people to vote, following up, converting the voters to conversations based on content that's valuable to them? So we've got that. And we also have quick prompts, like I need 20 ideas for a blog post, and it'll probably ask you 3 or 4 questions. What's the topic? How long do you want it to be? Who's the audience? And then based on if you have a persona, which we help people build, it'll say, whose voice is this in? Who's the client, right? And so you can add, like we have avatars, so you can add a client voice and then your voice, and it will write it based on how you've trained the avatars and the personas.
Oh, that is very cool. I'll say it this way. That's crispy.
It's crispy. That's good. My girlfriend says juicy all the time, but now I'm going to say crispy.
No, now you can say it's like crispy like a chip. It's so good. It's so crispy like a chip. And then that's your CRISP. I won't charge you anything for that. I promise.
Oh, no. I just have to figure out the why. How do I bring the why in to ask me the questions? I'll say, now it's up to you. That's it. I got it.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's awesome. Well, Brynne, this has been fascinating. I can't thank you enough. This has been awesome. How do people find you if they want to engage and have any questions directly for you on this?
Oh, I love that. So I am on LinkedIn, and I am still the only Brynne Tillman on LinkedIn. But, I'm always happy to have a conversation. And one of the things, our giveaway is if you schedule a demo, you get a customized prompt built for you, because we'll show you how to do it. That's the demo. Isn't that cool?
Oh, that's super cool. I'm going to schedule.
Yes, please. So you just go to socialsaleslink.com/demo, schedule 15 minutes, and we will build your prompt in the CRISP methodology. Well,
that's a great offer, and thank you so much for offering it to everybody on the show. Any final words of wisdom before we sign off here? Any last words that you want to give to somebody around LinkedIn, AI, anything in the realm of sales on the front lines these days?
So I'm going to go back to slow it down. Slow down your outreach. Read everything. And I want you guys to get in the shoes of the recipient. If you receive this message or you read this content, would you engage or would you block? Just use that as a litmus test. Do not think just because they connect with you means they want to be sold by you. You've got to get in the seat of the other person and go, what would I do? And do not send anything out into the world unless you say, ooh, I would love that.
I like that. That is a great litmus test. Great litmus test. Well, thank you so much, Brynne. This has been amazing. Everybody, I highly recommend connect with Brynne on LinkedIn. Make sure you reach out if you have any questions. And she is giving that free offer. So a free demo should help you build your prompts. That is amazing. So I'd encourage every member of the audience, go out there, make that happen. She obviously knows her stuff. And with that being said, we will sign off for today. Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to like, subscribe, share, and all the good things, not just for me, but for your fellow salesperson. We want to get that out there. We want to shine bright. We want to get them the best information that is possible. With that being said, we will sign off today from the Art and Science of Complex Sales, and have an amazing day. Hey, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Art and Science of Complex Sales. I hope today's conversation provided you with valuable insights and practical ideas to help you and your team elevate the profession and succeed in today's complex world. This podcast is brought to you by Membrane.com. Membrane is the B2B growth platform for CEOs, sales leaders, and sales executives who are committed to sustainable growth and change. If you enjoyed this episode, do us a favor, like, subscribe, share it with your network. Your support really helps us bring more valuable insights from the best in the business straight to you. Also, check us out at Membrane.com. We're more than a technology. Membrane equips your teams with the expert coaches and trainers, amazing sales methodologies, process, people, and tools to continually improve and coach results. More than a CRM. It's a network, and it's designed to help your team execute with confidence, smash goals, and overall up your sales game. So we'll see you next time for another episode of the Art and Science of Complex Sales. And until then, as always, keep shining bright.